Okay, quad fun test is tomorrow. So number 1 says the graph of a line is represented by the equation 7x minus 12y equals 24. So this is a review question. Which value represents the rate of change? That's our keyword here. Of the y with respect to x. Just a fancy way of saying of your function. So rate of change is slope, which means I have to solve for y, because when it's in standard form like this is our linear standard form, it doesn't give us any information. So I'm going to write it down and we're going to solve for y. So just a reminder, when we solve for y, we have to move our x. So minus 7x minus 7x, that makes this 0 out. And now to get y all alone, I have to divide by what's in front of y. So divide everything by what's in front of y, which is negative 12. So that cancels, and I'm left with y equals 24 divided by negative 12 is negative 2. Negative 7x over negative 12. Well, two negatives makes a positive, and if we're not sure if it simplifies, y'all, type it in your calculator. So we have 7 divide 12, which gives me an ugly decimal, which it doesn't simplify. And even if you forget about the negatives, you can type it in with the double negative. And again, it's still positive 7 over 12. So I get 7 over 12. Don't forget my x. So here's this. But remember, it only wants my slope. And we need to remember that slope, when y is by itself, is what's touching x. So it's positive 7 over 12, which is D. Okay, these are my two show work problems, 1 and 2. Now 2 is a little different. Okay, so 2, I have these two equations, and then it's asking me these questions. So I'm going to split screen this one. So I'm going to type in the two equations that are given to me. So I have f of x equals 4 parentheses okay, here's one of them. And then my other is g of x. So remember, I'm typing them just the way I see it. Okay, so it's giving me function notation and it's asking which ones are equal. So we're literally just going to type them in. When I say show work on this one, y'all, I'm not asking for anything crazy. So on the first one, it says f of negative 2 equals, which I'm not going to type equals, g of negative 2. And I see that f of negative 2 equals 66 equals g of negative 2 equals 3. 66 does not equal 3, so A is not my answer. Okay, this is all the work I'm asking for. So on the next one, it says f of 0 equals g of 0, and I get 18 equals 5, which is not true, so this is not my answer. Okay, the next one gives me 1, f of 1 equals g of 1, which gives me 6 equals 6, which is true. So that is my answer. We're just going to double check that last one, make sure we're doing it right. 2, g of 2, and I get 2 equals 7, which is not true. So again, C is my only answer. Okay, let's look at number 3. So it says, use the graph to answer the following questions. What is the vertex? Well, remember the vertex is that point of your U, which is going to be negative 1, negative 9. It's a point, x comma y. And then it says, is that vertex a maximum or a minimum? Well, that is my lowest point, so it is a minimum. And it says, what is the max or min value? So it's not a max. So what is the minimum value? Well, remember, that's your height, and it's the y of the point, so it's negative 9. Okay, what is the y-intercept? So again, here's my y-axis, and it touches right here at negative 8, or you can see it written as a point, which is 0, negative 8. Okay, so let's look at number 4. Number 4 is going to be a calculator problem. So we're going to go ahead and split screen. I'm going to drag this over a little bit. Okay, and I'm given this. It says, which of the following best represents the relationship between the population in thousands, P, and the time in years, T? So we don't know if this is a scatter plot, so we're going to type every single point. So I have 0, 5, 6, 22.8, 25, 26.5, 27.1, 27.8, 28.1, 27.9. Okay, and it's asking for the equation, so we have to do our y1 squiggle, and it's quadratic, so we have to do our quadratic y1 squiggle. So just a reminder, that is y1 squiggle, ax1 squared plus bx1 plus c. And remember, if it's not working or it gives you all ones, check your table. It should say x1, y1. So mine's good. And it graphed it, so we can hit the magnifying glass. There's my shape. It is a scatter plot, so we had to type all of them. And we just have to figure out the equation. So it says a is negative 0.211. So remember, a goes in front of x squared or t squared. So here, but this is not right. Here's right, this one's not. So these are my a values, those are correct. B is 2.08 or 2.09, 2.086. So this one's right, this one's right. And then C is 22.95. That one has it. This one does not. So C is my answer. Okay. So let's look at the next one. It says for the function here, what is the vertex? Well, guys, we can type it in. Yes, you can find it from the equation, but why not double check your work? Don't make any simple mistakes. Type it in. Okay, and I'm going to hit the home button. Here we go. And my vertex is just either the top of my U or the bottom of my U. So it's 4, 1, positive 4, 1, which is A. So remember, inside is opposite of the X, outside is exact of my Y. So opposite of negative 4 is positive 4, exact Y is 1. Okay, so let's look at number 6. Number 6 and 7 are calculator problems. So it tells me a parabola goes through the point 2, negative 7. So I'm going to type that in. And it doesn't tell me it's the vertex. So I don't need to label it as vertex. 2, negative 7. And then it tells me this part of the equation. It says it has an equation of this, but I don't know A. So I'm going to retype it. I'm going to type it like this without A. Because it gives me my H, my K, meaning it's going to give me my vertex. So when I type that in, I have G of X equals, my bad, equals X minus 4 squared plus 5. So I see my point, my blue point way down here, and my vertex here, which is correct, but it's opened upwards, and that's not even going towards my point. So first things first, I know A is going to have to be negative. So now it's at least going towards my point, so I know my A is negative. And then I need it to get skinnier to go to that point. So remember, when A is greater than 1, it's a stretch, a vertical stretch, which means skinnier. Now when A is between 0 and 1, that's a vertical compression, and that's when it gets wider. So knowing that, I'm going to try 2. So it got closer, but not close enough, so let's try 3, and there it goes. It goes through my point, so A is negative 3. Okay, so let's try the next one. This time it goes through the point negative 1, comma, negative 3. And again, I don't know A. And this has X plus 3 squared minus 5. Okay, so here's my point, and I see it's close to my point, but it needs to get wider. So remember, that's a number between 0 and 1, usually a fraction. I'm going to start with 1/2. It might help if I type divide. And there it goes straight through my point, so my answer for A is 1/2. Okay, Okay, so let's look at the next one. Okay, if you notice, I'm given equations, so we're going to type them in. Okay, anytime you're given an equation, y'all use it to your advantage. So we're going to type it in. H of x equals negative x squared minus 4x minus 10. So I have this, and it's asking me for domain and range. Now, one thing I want you to remember is that I told y'all that domain is all real numbers unless there's endpoints or there is a situation, a story, a word problem. And here I have no word problem and there's no endpoints. If I just keep scrolling down, it keeps getting wider and wider and wider, meaning my domain is all real numbers. So I know domain is all real numbers. And B and D don't give me that. So I know those are wrong. Now range is my Y, so I'm going to find my vertex. And this is my biggest Y. So I know that my range is Y and with 6, with negative 6. And it's going down forever. So I know one thing I've stressed to my kids when we're talking about range, if it goes up forever, it's greater, down forever, it's less. Because up is bigger numbers, down is less numbers. This one goes down forever. So it's going to be less than or equal to negative 6, which is A. That one says negative 10, which is my intercept, but not my maximum. Okay, so let's look at number 9. So same concept, I'm given an equation, I'm going to type it in. Okay, here's my equation. Here's my graph. So again, I can scroll forever. It's going to keep getting wider and wider and wider because my domain is all real numbers. So I know that this is right and this is right. So B and D again are not my answers. And then it tells me, so again, looking here, it's going up forever. So I know Y is going to be greater than or equal to, and my number is 9. So this one says less than, this one says greater than, so C is my answer. Okay, looking at number 10. It says if the quadratic parent function f of x equals x squared, I'm just going to erase these, is shifted so that the vertex is 2, 4, which equation represents the new function? So let's type them in. I'm going to leave my parent function. I'm actually going to change it to a dashed line. And I'm going to type in my new one. So y equals x plus 2 squared plus 4. Okay, so when I look at my vertex here, it says negative 2, positive 4, and I need positive 2, positive 4. So A is not an answer. So B says x minus 2 minus 4. So when I look at my vertex, this is 2, negative 4. Again, I want positive 2. So this gave me 2, negative 4. This gave me negative 2, positive 4. So those are both wrong. C, if I do plus 2, not equals, plus 2 minus 4, that gives me negative 2, negative 4, which is not the same. And lastly, let's double check our work. Minus 2 plus 4, and that gives me positive 2, positive 4, which is what I want. Now, big thing to remember, if you did not use your calculator, you should always check your work anyway. Remember, inside the parentheses is opposite, positive 2, negative 2, and outside is exact. So that's another way to check your work here. Okay, so let's look at number 11. Same concept, I'm going to leave my parent function in there. F of x equals x squared. And this one says, which function would appear to be shifted 8 units to the left? So 8 units to the left. This first one says x minus 8. And that went 8 units to the right. That one went to the right, so that one's not my answer. X squared minus 8. That went 8 units down, so that's not my answer. This one says plus 8. That one 8 units up, so that's not my answer. And this last one should be my answer. Let's double check. Plus 8. And that went 8 units left. So that is my answer. So D is my answer. Okay, again, we know that inside inside is my horizontal change, and it's opposite of what you think. So to the left is negative numbers, but it's actually plus. To the right is positive numbers, but it's actually minus. And it's inside my parentheses. Okay, how this one, it says, how would this change? Well, this is over. This is outside. It's a vertical change, and it's exact. So up is plus, down is minus, and it's outside my parentheses, so I don't have to worry about parentheses. So plus 8 should shift up 8. So this should be my answer, but let's check our work. So we have function notation here. So I'm going to type it in just the way I see it. G of x equals f of x plus 8. And that went up 8, so we are correct. Now, I want you to realize if I don't have this in here, it doesn't work. You have to have your parent function, and because it said f, you have to have it written as f of x, okay? So that's number 12. Okay, let's look at 13. 13 says an apple is launched from a catapult. What is the domain? Domain means x, and we start left and work our way right. So left to right. So my farthest left is where it started, which is at 0. And the farthest right is here, which is hard to see this point, but it's x of 10. So it goes from 0 to 10, and it's domain, so it's my x values. Okay, number 14. So number 14 is another function notation problem. So I have to have my parent function. So this the graph of the quadratic parent function f. So you have to have f for your parent function is here. So it says f, parentheses, this time it says plus 2 on the inside, and it says minus 5 on the outside. So it went left 2, down 5, which is B. So again, remember inside plus is to the left, and down is minus on the outside. Okay, let's look at number 15. Okay, 15 says the graph of the quadratic parent function f, again, I have it in my calculator already, has been transformed to create the graph of g, so one of these. What function best? So let's try to use our rules and we'll double check our work. So if it goes right to, I should have, so remember, inside I had is opposite. So this way is plus, this way is minus. So if it goes right to, that should be minus 2. And then it went down 2, and down 2 is over, which is exact. So up is plus, down is minus, so I should have minus 2. So I should have a double negative. So let's try A. So if I type f of negative 2 minus 2, does that look the same? It does. We can check our vertex to negative 2, which is correct. So A is my answer. Now, you could have typed all 4 to see which one worked as well. Okay, let's look at 16. So 16 says which statements are best supported by the graph. We're talking about a baseball player is batting and hits the ball into the infield. The height of the ball is in feet versus the elapsed time shown on the bottom. So this is seconds, this is feet. And it says the ball will be 51 feet or higher for 3 seconds. So let's see where it's 51 feet. So it's counted by threes here. So 48, 49, 50, 51. This is 51. So it hits 51 feet at 1 second, and it's over 51 feet until 3 seconds. So from 1 to 3, 3 minus 1 is only 2 seconds. This says for 3 seconds, so that is wrong. Then it says the baseball is in the air for 4 seconds. Well, it starts at 0, ends at 4, so it was in the air for 4 seconds. It says the maximum height of the ball is 70. Well, if it's counting by 3, 66, 67, 68, this would be a height of 69, and it doesn't even reach that. My height is somewhere above 66, probably like 67, so that is not an answer. The baseball is initially hit from a height of 3 feet. Well, it is starting here, and it's counting by 3, so that is an answer. The baseball reaches its maximum height at 2 seconds, so here's my maximum, which is at 2 seconds. And then it says if 2.75 seconds has passed, so 2.75 is going to be here. It says it's going to be 63 feet. Well, here it hasn't even reached 60, so that is not an answer. It said 3, 1, 2, 3, we're good. Okay, look at number 17. It says the graph of a quadratic h of x is shown on the grid. Which statements are true? Select 3. So it says the coordinates of the y-intercept are 0, -8, 0, -8, which is true. The axis of symmetry is x equals -1, so it's always x equals, and let's see, that is true. It says the x-intercepts are both positive, so we have a +2, but this is a -4, so that is not true. The function has a 0 at 2, 0. That is a 0. Remember, zeros are just x-intercepts. And then it says the vertex is -9. You can't even see that, -1, which would be way over here. My vertex is -1, -9. So this is backwards, so this is not an answer. So A, B, and D. Okay, there is a typo in this one. It says the table shows the point from a quadratic function. What is the value of y when f of -1? Okay, so I know that f of x equals y. So if it's inside my parentheses, it's giving me x is -1. So x is -1 here. Therefore, my y is 8. Okay, number 19 says Cohen's shoe shop determines the monthly profit using this equation, where n is the number of shoes sold. Okay, so what is the monthly profit? So we're going to use our calculator. Just going to close that so we don't see it. And I'm going to use x, so p, I'm just going to type y. Y equals 20x minus 0.12x squared. Okay, so I have this graph, and it tells me what is the monthly profit if he sells 33 pairs of shoes, and it says n is the number of shoes sold, so x, remember we're using x. So we want to know where x equals 33, so I'm going to type x equals 33, and I'm going to see where they touch. So I already know 33, so my answer is 529.32. It says, what is the monthly profit? Well, that's money, and it's rounded to 100 because money is always 100, so there's my answer. So straight calculator problem. Okay, number 20 says, are the tables linear, quadratic, or exponential? So we're going to go straight into plus sign table, and we're going to type our points. So -1, 0, 2, 3. You're going to type all the points. 11, 6, 3, 2, 3. And then remember, you're going to click this plus sign zoom fit. So here we hook back up. I know that quadratic graphs look like this. I know exponential, might help if I spell it right, looks like a ramp. It does not hook back up. And I know linear is just a straight line. So this hooks back up, meaning it has to be quadratic. Okay, let's look at our next one. So here we have 0.5, 1, 2, 4, 8. So this one looks more like a ramp. It does not hook back up, so it's not exponential. I mean, it's not quadratic, sorry. So this one is exponential, which is a ramp. Okay, here I have, why won't it let me click? -1, 2, 5, 8, 11. So if you look, these are a very straight line. And again, push this, very straight line. So these are linear. Okay, last page. Number 21. Here it says the graph of a quadratic function g is shown on the grid. The coordinates of the x-intercepts, y-intercepts, and vertex are integers, which just means numbers. What is the maximum value? Remember, maximum value is only y. Okay, so I want to know the height. Just like if you're measuring a person, we're going to do this. So my height is 4. Okay, 22, we're going to use our calculator here just to see what it looks like. So I'm going to type in -1, 0. This is 3/4. This is 3/2. And this is 5/2. Okay, so this is 29/8. So this is going to just be like a normal quadratic for us, but it just has ugly numbers. So we're going to make our calculator show them to us. And then again, we're going to hit our plus sign. So here's our graph. So I know, first off, we've talked about this, is that it's open up forever. And it's going to look something like this. Well, we know that it's asking range, which is our y. So y is my height. And so this one, up forever, remember, is greater than, down is less than. So I know y is greater than or equal to, and what's my lowest point? Well, that's the y of my vertex, which is this. And now another thing I can find is my vertex here because my rainbow, 9/8, 29/8, so it's giving me 9/16. So I know C and A are not my answers. Y is greater, so D has to be my answer. Now, that's the easiest way to figure this out, because this is my vertex. And the y of my vertex is always used in my range. Okay, let's look at 23. 23 says, here we're going to graph this back. So it says the graph of f of x equals x squared. So let's double check. So f is the dash line, so ours will match. And then it says h of x equals 2f of x. So I know that it gets skinnier. Now again, if I don't have that graphed, watch, if I don't have that typed in, it's not going to work because it's function notation. You have to have that parent function as f of x. So D is my answer. Another thing we can remember is that when A is greater than 1, it's a vertical stretch, which means skinnier. Okay, 24 says the quadratic function here is shown on the graph. What are the zeros? Well, one of my zeros, remember zeros are x-intercepts. I have 2 of them. So one of them is -2. That doesn't have -2. That doesn't have -2. And then the other one is like 1 point something. So we can type this equation in our calculator. I'm going to turn that off. So g of x equals -3x squared minus 2x plus 8. And we can type here, so it's 1.3 repeating. And I want you to realize that 1/3 is this, while 1/2 is this, so it's obviously B. Last but not least, number 25. So it says, which equation best represents the graph? Well, first off, I know it's open downward, so it has to be a negative. So we can cross off A and B, because remember, A is the same even in standard form. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel these, and I'm going to type one of those in. So y equals negative 2x squared minus 16x minus 27. I'm going to hit the home button so we can see it. So this is what I have. Let's see, that has a vertex of negative 4, 5, which is the same, and intercepts at a decimal, negative 5.5, negative 2.5, pretty much, which is about accurate. So this one could be it, maybe. Let's double check the other one just to be safe. So this says plus 16 minus 27, and that is not even close. So my answer is B.